You're listening to The American Dream with Jay McNally on Wham Talk 1600.
I was listening to the break there, the Clark cast. Clark was talking about, he kind of stole my thunder there. We're actually going to be talking about the new jobs bill that Obama has proposed. And this comes after a summer-long battle about government spending in which the president demagogued the GOP for being unreasonable about wanting to control spending and actually getting the deficit under control. Now, Obama has proposed another stimulus package full of brand new government spending that will cost America $447 billion. And then, of course, he proposes that the so-called rich pay for it. So let's get out our Obama decoder rings and see if we can't figure this thing out. He said in his speech this week that what he's doing is not class warfare, it's just math. So, like the Clark cast said, let's actually do the math today. If the past is a predictor of future results, this becomes a pretty simple mathematical equation that even a child under No Child Left Behind could figure out. No Child Left Behind. Now there's a joke. I like what P.J. O'Rourke said about it. He said that, no child left behind. What if the child needs to be left behind? What if the child needs a SWAT on the behind? Anyhow, let's get back to the math comparing Obama's first stimulus package with its sequel that he's just released. I would call this sequel Stimulus Part 2, the attack of the clowns, but the Obama White House has actually outlawed the use of the term stimulus by his administration staff because, the first one was so awful they just as soon you forget about it altogether. This bill has been a real phantom menace because he has said pass this bill about 100 times even before he even released the details of the plan. And then after he released the details, he waited another 11 days before he explained how he would pay for it. Now, some people have fallen for his Jedi mind trick and forgotten all about the jobs he's promised, but we haven't forgot about it. Here on Wham 1600 on the American Dream Show with Jay McNally, we have the memory of elephants. And even if you try to forget about his $787 billion stimulus package, you can't help but constantly being reminded every day because we keep hearing more and more news about how the money was wasted lining the pockets of Obama's buddies in the big snake oil business, or what he calls the green energy sector. Hey, by the way, did you hear that Secretary of Labor Hilda Solis this week tried to explain to Congress how converting a diesel bus into a hybrid bus is now counted as a new green job by this administration? It was the same number of bus drivers. There was one bus driver before, and now he's just driving a hybrid bus, so they count it towards their total new green jobs created. Isn't that just wonderful? I'm sitting on a recycled chair, so perhaps I'm a green job as well. Anyhow, let's get back to the math on this jobs program. President Spock says that he wants to soak the job creators because the simple math shows how that is the logical way to create jobs. So let's run the numbers just for fun. They say never run numbers on radio, but I'm going to give it a shot here. I've got my little calculator. In January 2009, when Obama took office, he promised that if we let him spend $787 billion as he wanted to, it would create 3.5 million jobs. So let's run that, 787 billion, and that's with 9 zeros, divided by 3.5 million. That equals $224,857 per job. Now let's stop right there and ask ourselves, if we'd have given $225,000 to 300, excuse me, let me get this. If we'd have given 3.5 million businesses $250,000 to create jobs, do you think they could each create at least one job each? Now, if we'd have done that, I wonder how many jobs business in America would have created. All of you who are listening today who own or manage a business, raise your hands if you could create one profitable job if Uncle Sam gave you $225,000. Folks, this is radio. I can't see you. Put your hands back down. I think the point is made. It ought to be pretty easy to create jobs at that price tag, right? But of course, those are private sector jobs, and we all know that it doesn't quite work that way in the public sector. As the lovable old Democrat Paul Tsongas used to say, If you think the words government and efficiency belong in the same sentence, we have counseling available. If you were really only interested in creating as many jobs as possible from shovel-ready projects, all you have to do is get rid of the shovels and give all the new employees spoons to dig with. This is an old line from Milton Friedman. You could hire 10 times as many people to dig with spoons than you could with shovels. See, this is the old fallacy of paying people to dig holes and fill them back in. It was the idea that was tried to pull us out of the Great Depression. And of course, any serious student of history knows that government intervention only deepened and prolonged that Great Depression. So the question is, are we prolonging our recession with all of this out of control spending today? So let's take a look at the actual results of Obama's first stimulus package. He promised to create 3.5 million jobs by spending $787 billion. But 20 months later, America has lost 1.8 million U.S. jobs, according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Oops, so much for your promise to create jobs there, Mr. President. And there has never been anything close to the size of the stimulus package in American history. Some of us remember back in '93 the big hullabaloo that Bill Clinton got into when he took office and passed a $16 billion stimulus package. $16 billion versus $787 billion. Bubba was a piker compared to Obama. But even though the evidence is in that the neo-Keynesian stimulus doesn't work, there are still some who think we ought to give it another shot to try and produce a sequel. Okay, so this time Obama suggests that we spend $447 billion on another stimulus. On his jobs bill, that is. $447 billion divided by $787 billion means that this is roughly 57% the size of the first bill, which lost 1.8 million jobs. So if the past stimulus is an indicator of future results of the second stimulus, this $447 billion stimulus will lose us 1,222,000 jobs. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're smart people. You know this is not the way to calculate how many jobs will be created. Our economy doesn't work this way. In order to spend money on targeted stimulus, the money has to come from somewhere. Our government has to take it out of the hands of the productive people in our society in order to invest it as they want. So think of it this way. To believe that government spending, government stimulus is going to work to stimulate jobs in our economy is like taking a bucket of water from one end of the pool and then dumping it into the other end of the pool in hopes that the water level will rise. It's a crazy notion. And to carry this analogy one step further, the government taking water out of one end and then dumping it in the other, we know that the government is terribly slow and spills an awful mess all along the way. So to take out of one end and put it in the other just never works. It's kind of like standing in a bucket and hoping that by pulling up the handles, you can lift yourself off the ground. Obama's stimulus package is trying to deny the law of economic gravity. And when his scheme falls flat on his face, it's as if he wants to try to blame the ground for his fall. The problem is, folks, that with this stimulus package, we are seeing a massive redistribution of America's wealth. And it goes against not only our constitutional principles, but it goes against common sense as well. Folks, it's been a real honor for me to sit in for Jay McNally this week here on The American Dream on Wham 1600. I want to remind everybody to go to Leo's Coney Island here. There's 7 locations across the area, but the one here in Ann Arbor is pretty cool. It's got this great fountain in it, and the food is always homemade, and you won't be disappointed. Make sure you say Jay sent them, and they'll give you an extra 10% discount every time you go in and visit with them. Folks, have a great weekend, and thanks for joining us here on The American Dream with Jay McNally.